The executive conference hall at Sterling Industries headquarters buzzed with energy as more than 120 employees, partners, and relatives gathered for my dad's retirement celebration. After nearly 4 decades of turning Sterling Industries from a modest machine shop into a regional giant with over 800 employees, Thomas Sterling was finally stepping aside as CEO and president. This transition, carefully prepared over the past 2 years, marked the close of an era for the company he had devoted his life to building. The usually formal meeting space had been reimagined for the evening, graced with elegant decor, a catered feast from the city's top restaurant, and a professional photographer documenting every moment that would soon become part of the company's history. This wasn't merely a farewell gathering. It was a tribute to my father's legacy and the thriving business empire forged through years of vision, persistence, and an unwavering work ethic. I stood quietly near the back, dressed in a simple navy blazer and slacks, an outfit that likely cost less than some of the shoes worn in the room. All around me mingled a sea of executives in tailored suits, longtime employees celebrating their leaders' accomplishments, and business partners who had worked with Sterling Industries for decades. To them, I was little more than the family outsider, the daughter who had apparently missed out on inheriting the Sterling entrepreneurial gift, the one that had made our name a symbol of success. What none of them realized was that 8 months earlier, I had secretly purchased Sterling Industries myself. Using a network of holding companies and private equity deals, I had acquired control through my investment firm, Phoenix Capital Group, a firm now overseeing $6.2 billion in assets and holding majority stakes in 43 companies spanning 12 different industries. "Natalie, sweetheart," my Aunt Patricia said as she approached, her tone a blend of concern and curiosity. "How have you been? Still keeping busy with those little investment projects of yours?" Before I could answer, my Uncle Richard stepped in beside her. With the self-assurance of Sterling Industries' Vice President of Operations and the certainty that comes with believing he knew the family hierarchy inside and out, he added, "She probably still thinks she's going to make it as a financial advisor. I usually just tell people my niece is dabbling in investments because honestly, I can't explain what she thinks she's achieved in 4 years." A wave of polite chuckles passed through the small crowd nearby. My brother Michael, the heir apparent groomed since college to take over Sterling Industries, lifted his wine glass with the satisfied air of someone whose future was locked in place. "Natalie has always been the dreamer," he said smoothly. "While some of us focused on building real careers in real businesses, she's been chasing illusions about managing other people's money." Laughter rippled once more through the conference hall. My sister-in-law, Jennifer, who had married into the Sterling family legacy and now basked in the prestige of belonging to a well-known business dynasty, glanced at her diamond bracelet with a carefully rehearsed air of boredom. I'd often suggested she think about pursuing a steadier, more practical career path, something like human resources or customer service, work that matched her abilities and offered stability. I offered a polite smile and raised my glass of champagne, quietly amused by the irony in their chatter. While they speculated about my supposed shortcomings, Phoenix Capital Group had been delivering over $1.8 billion in returns to investors within just 4 years. As they critiqued me, I had built a financial powerhouse, an investment firm employing more than 300 professionals, recognized by the Wall Street Journal as one of the fastest rising private equity companies in the nation. The atmosphere shifted when my father stepped up to the podium. Instantly, the room's focus belonged to him, his presence still commanding, whether in a boardroom or on a factory floor, as it had for nearly 40 years. At 63, Thomas Sterling remained a formidable figure. Silver hair, broad shoulders, and the unshakable poise of a man who had created something enduring from nothing. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice carrying the weight and authority that had long earned him respect throughout the regional business world, "thank you for joining us tonight as we mark this turning point in the history of Sterling Industries." His eyes swept across the audience with evident pride, pausing on longtime employees who had given decades to the company and on business partners who had played a role in its growth. 38 years ago, he continued, I launched Sterling Industries with a $50,000 loan, a leased warehouse, and a belief that American manufacturing could stand toe-to-toe with anyone if we committed ourselves to quality, innovation, and treating our workers like family. The room erupted in enthusiastic applause, honoring the vision that had built both their livelihoods and a company culture known across the region for its integrity and achievement. Today, Sterling Industries employs more than 800 people, generates $340 million in annual revenue, and holds contracts with some of North America's largest corporations. We had created something designed to endure for generations. The room erupted in applause again, carrying with it the pride of belonging to something larger than oneself. Yet, Dad continued, tonight was about more than business triumphs. His voice softened, taking on a personal edge. It was about family, about heritage, and about handing down the principles that had built this company to those who would carry it forward. His eyes landed on Michael, standing near the front with his wife and children, the very picture of what Dad saw as the continuation of the Sterling legacy. Michael had proven himself deserving of the Sterling name and the responsibility of guiding the company's future. His leadership, business insight, and unwavering dedication would ensure Sterling Industries thrived long after Dad's time. The crowd erupted in thunderous applause once more as Michael lifted his glass humbly, accepting their recognition with the quiet confidence of a man who had always known this day would come. The Sterling family had always stood by the belief that true success is built on hard work, sound business values, and the wisdom to create something lasting, not by chasing shortcuts, quick riches, or reckless ventures. The audience nodded in agreement, fully aware that this philosophy had been the foundation of the company's steady growth and financial stability for decades. Then Dad's voice shifted, his tone now carrying both disappointment and finality. Which brings me to a more difficult subject, he said. Not every member of the family had chosen to embrace these time-tested approaches to success. The room fell into silence, sensing that this retirement celebration was about to venture into personal territory beyond the matter of succession. My daughter Natalie, he went on, chose 4 years ago to leave a promising role in our accounting department to pursue what she calls investment management. Despite our efforts to steer her toward more practical opportunities, she has continued down this path, one that has yet to deliver any tangible results. An uneasy hush swept across the conference room. More than 100 pairs of eyes turned toward me, their looks a mix of sympathy, awkwardness, and quiet judgment. For 4 years, Dad continued, I've watched her cling to unrealistic ideas about the financial industry, rejecting secure positions, chasing dreams of portfolio management, and ignoring the realities in front of her. The tension in the air was thick enough to touch. Everyone now realized this was far more than a farewell speech. It was a family reckoning disguised as a business address. You've thrown your life away, my father declared, his words cutting sharply through the stillness of the room as his eyes locked on me. Look at your brother. Look at his success. He motioned toward Michael, who shifted uneasily, clearly uncomfortable at being turned into a prop for his father's very public condemnation of his sister. Michael had built his path carefully, through education, mentorship, steady progress, and respect for proven business practices. His accomplishments were tangible, his contributions measurable, his position earned without question. The silence that followed was suffocating, thick with judgment and unease. I caught the sidelong glances, some filled with discomfort at witnessing such a personal attack in public, others quietly nodding as if agreeing with my father's harsh verdict. I remained composed, silent, as my father used his own retirement celebration to brand my life a failure in front of 120 witnesses. Natalie is the example of what happens when someone ignores sound advice and chases impossible dreams, he pressed on, clearly emboldened by the room's attention and Michael's shining example. For years spent chasing fantasies, for years of refusing real chances, for years dragging the Sterling name through the mud because she couldn't face reality. Again, silence, shifting in seats, nervous glances, employees uncertain if they should even be witnessing such a spectacle during what was supposed to honor decades of business success. This is why succession planning is critical, Dad continued, pivoting back toward his business message. Leadership must be handed to those who've proven their ability to expand upon what's been built, not to those chasing quick schemes while dismissing hard-earned wisdom. His voice grew more forceful, as though he was building toward a dramatic revelation, when suddenly the conference room doors swung open. And then came the news. Marcus Rodriguez strode in with the self-assured presence of a man well-versed in commanding attention in boardrooms. At 45, Marcus had established himself as a turnaround expert, the man called upon to guide companies through turbulent transitions. The instant he entered, the atmosphere shifted, from awkward family conflict to professional anticipation. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marcus began, his voice carrying across the room with ease. "Forgive me for cutting into Mr. Sterling's remarks, but I have an announcement that concerns every single person here." My father's expression faltered, confusion flickering across his face at the sudden interruption. "Marcus, we had planned your introduction for later tonight. But Mr. Sterling, there's been an unexpected shift in the transition schedule that requires immediate announcement to every employee and stakeholder." Marcus stepped to the front of the room, carrying a leather portfolio that looked filled with official paperwork. "As of this morning," he began, "Sterling Industries has been acquired by Phoenix Capital Group, effective right now." Gasps and murmurs spread through the room as stunned voices overlapped, struggling to make sense of his words. "The acquisition covers all assets, operations, employee contracts, and leadership structures," Marcus continued. "This transition has been carefully prepared over the last 8 months to prevent major disruption to daily work." My father's face drained of color. "That's impossible. The company isn't for sale. I hold the controlling interest." "Actually, Mr. Sterling," Marcus replied, "the financial struggles Sterling Industries has faced in the last year and a half triggered several for-sale events. Phoenix Capital Group acquired the outstanding debt and exercised its rights under the restructuring agreements." Marcus opened the portfolio, pulling out a stack of legal papers. "The new ownership structure takes effect immediately," he said, "and I'll be serving as interim CEO throughout the transition period." "This is insane," my father choked out, his voice cracking with panic. "Who on earth is Phoenix Capital Group?" Marcus slowly scanned the room until his gaze landed on me at the back of the crowd. "Everyone," he said, raising his voice with deliberate clarity, "meet the owner of your company." He extended his hand toward me. The silence that followed was deafening. 120 pairs of eyes turned on me, their faces a mix of disbelief, confusion, and even fear. "Natalie Sterling," Marcus continued smoothly, "is the founder and managing partner of Phoenix Capital Group. She has been directing the Sterling Industries acquisition as part of her firm's expansion into the manufacturing sector." My father's prepared retirement speech froze on his lips. The same man who had spent 10 minutes ridiculing my life choices now stared at me with dawning horror, realizing that I was the one who owned the company he had spent 38 years building. "Phoenix Capital Group oversees close to $6.2 billion in assets," Marcus noted as he reviewed his paperwork. Miss Sterling had established one of the region's most successful private equity firms, holding controlling stakes in 43 companies across 12 different industries. The room instantly broke into chaos. Voices clashed in shock, confusion, and frantic questions as people tried to grasp how everything they believed had suddenly been overturned. "But Natalie," Michael stammered, his words nearly drowned out by the noise, "you don't have that kind of wealth. You've been struggling for 4 years. I finally stepped forward and accepted the microphone Marcus held out to me. "Actually, Michael, for the past 4 years I've been building Phoenix Capital Group, while all of you assumed I was failing. Just last year, we delivered $1.88 billion in returns to our investors." A heavy silence fell over the room. "Dad, you were right about one thing," I continued. "Real success is earned through hard work and strong business values. While you were planning for retirement, I was working 18-hour days creating a company that now employs more than 300 people, a firm recognized by the Wall Street Journal as one of the fastest-growing private equity firms in the nation." I glanced around at the 120 faces that had just witnessed my very public humiliation. Then my eyes shifted back to Dad, whose retirement party had suddenly turned into the big reveal. His company had just been bought by the daughter he once labeled a disappointment. "Michael," I said, "you'll stay on as operations manager under the new ownership. In fact, your salary and benefits will increase under Phoenix Capital Group's employee compensation plan. And Dad," I continued, "your retirement package will be honored exactly as promised. Think of it as a thank you for creating something valuable enough to be acquired." I passed the microphone back to Marcus and started for the door. Oh, and Dad, I added over my shoulder, next time you decide to call someone's life meaningless in front of a crowd, you might want to double check that you're not standing inside a building they actually own. I walked out of the conference room, in my company, leaving behind 120 stunned guests and one deeply shocked former CEO, who had just learned that the daughter he dismissed as a failure now owned the empire he spent a lifetime building. Sometimes, the most powerful way to answer those who say your life is wasted isn't with excuses or explanations. It's by running the very company where they made the accusation.